Don Adams and Barbara Feldon star in Get Smart. Weeknights at 6, just before Room 222, here on Channel 20, WXON-TV, Detroit.
You are about to witness the very exciting story of a city and its people. That city is Detroit.
Let me tell you about the Motor City, Detroit, Detroit. Detroit was called the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, Detroit, Detroit. Detroit's been heading to the music, hum of soul, hum of jazz. 1719 Gladstone Street, that's the sound of Detroit. Sing it. That's the sound of Detroit. Sing it. Now Detroit's like a motherless child, but Detroit still lives. Detroit, Detroit. Get down to the sound of Detroit. Get down to the sound of Detroit. Say it. That's the sound of Detroit. Say it. Have you heard how the city of steel overnight was brought to its knees? Tramps on Rosa Parks Boulevard, mourning a lost paradise, journey to the end of the night. But Detroit is no dry bones, says the writing on the wall. Seeds of love, seeds of hope started growing in Detroit. Seeds of hope in the gardens of Detroit. Detroit, Detroit. Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry? Detroit, Detroit. They said Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry? Detroit, Detroit. Detroit, Detroit. They said Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry? Detroit, Detroit. They said Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry? Ain't nobody crying. They said Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry? They said Detroit was meant to die, victim of the changing times. Can you hear anyone cry?
City of Majesty!